Hello dear friends. A supposedly channeled message from the Queen explains a lot. Opinion piece. Change is starting to happen. Something is mutating. Great challenges are coming. End of the old God. The timeline changes. Revelation comes in drips and drabs. The finish line is in sight. Channeled message from the Queen. Massive changes on a global scale. Businesses divest from the dollar. The ship's deck has been cleared. Dubai leads the development of the Metaverse. More than half the world pays in gold. Richest lose fortunes in a day. Dissident Nazi civilisation in Antarctica. Potassium iodide causes ozone destruction. 6,000 migrants stranded on Mexico's southern border. Let's start. Events unfolding over the past few days indicate a phenomenal change in the timeline, according to Mark Bogman. It marks the end of the rule of the old god of the duck hat. However, due to the delicate nature of this timeline and the impact this closure would have on sleeping humankind, there has been a particular agenda for slow trickle disclosure. But the message is that this event is a marker and marks a fundamental shift in the timeline. A supposedly channeled message from the Queen explained that she is now paying a karmic price and that she takes full responsibility for the karma she is experiencing. She explains that she had no choice but to comply with the orders of her overlords, as to have gone against them would have put her and her entire family at an unprecedented risk, and explains that this change would be a marker for the end of fiat currency, and that it would be useful for all to invest in gold and silver now. Excuse me. The main message he conveyed was that monarchy, in its old form, was designed to delay the ascension timeline by perpetuating a fundamental destruction away from the individualized sovereignty of all. Now that this demise has been announced, planet Earth is at a new point of frequency adjustment. Many people will now be awakening to their sovereignty. We will profoundly close the timeline of the old black hat god on all dimensional planes and establish, affirm and empower the timeline of ascension. World change. For eons now, dark forces have ruled the world from a very high level, and we have been in the depths of an intense spiritual battle in recent years, with many of the dark players being exposed and pushed aside. This event is a marker and marks a fundamental shift in the timeline. Massive changes are occurring on a global scale, creating an opening, a crack in the magnetic field for quantum consciousness to awaken and illuminate. The global shift in operating systems initiates a new renaissance as we ascend out of the fallen dark ages. At this time in which you find yourselves, those of you who wish to ascend beyond the third dimension have collectively decided that it is time to release, resolve, and completely end the old trauma of Earth, the grievances and schemes that have plagued the planet, as well as your individual experiences. All of you who have chosen to live in the higher light have known on a higher level that the old earthly way of life is over. End of an era. However, you are aware that humankind cannot move to the next level without the parts of the old system progressively leaving the scene. And that is what you see happening now. That is the end of an era you are witnessing, not just a chapter of humankind's history, but an entire aspect of planetary culture. Not just its pomp, traditions and hierarchies, but the colonizing efforts it has sustained for millennia. For a time, we may encounter great challenges with the perspective of gratitude and compassion. We can remember that we cannot be harmed in any way without our consent. This kind of consent depends on us having a victim attitude. It is a matter of frequency. If we engage in negativity, we create it in some way. By staying in high frequency, we do not align ourselves with negativity, nor do we allow it access to our life force. When we achieve a positive perspective only, we no longer create negative encounters. The deck of the ship has been cleared. Matrices have fallen. Grids, timelines and artificial realities are now collapsed, dissolving all remaining illusions, deceptions, holographic veils and overlays, implants and insertions, as only truth remains and is being remembered by all. It is the beginning. The changes begin, says Mike Kinsey. You have the forces of light with you, and you cannot fail in your objective. So do not despair as you go through this great period of change. You have waited a long time for this moment to come, and it is very close to manifesting. Keep your eyes on the future that beckons you with the promise of great times, as the light overcomes the dark ones who will be confined to the low frequency they have created. We know it is difficult for you to visualize the future, but stay positive and all will come to you. After waiting so long for these days to arrive, please do not lose heart, as the finish line is in sight. All that you can wish for will finally be yours, and the memories of the dark times will soon fade away. You have been carefully chosen to experience the end times, knowing that you would survive the heartbreaks you would go through, and that by your example you would also help others to succeed. What is being attempted on Earth for the first time in the history of the universe is physical ascension and is considered a success. This process has been very gradual, but it is now moving forward. That is why we now have the attention and the help of the universe, because we are the first to do something like this, to ascend with our physical craft. But not everyone who ascends into the fifth dimension will go through physical ascension. With this, we are not only elevating our world. What is happening here is affecting the entire galaxy and beyond. Yes, we could say that we are also uplifting the universe. The duality in extremes that has been experienced here on Earth so far will not be allowed to happen again anywhere in the galaxy. Economy. Richest lose billions in a day as market plunges. The fortunes of billionaires fell by $93 billion on Tuesday, 13th September, the ninth largest daily loss in history. This came after the stock market plunged following the release of worse than expected inflation data, writes Bloomberg. Charlie Watt reports that in quotes, under the BRIC countries, more than half the world, more than 4 billion people, already trade in gold-backed currencies. So, even if air-backed central bank digital currency were to take hold, it would have to go up against something backed by gold, and it didn't last. They intend to publish a narrative and announce the digital currency planned by the Davos Forum. The only way they could survive would be to seize everyone's assets. They said, you will own nothing and you will be happy. As long as you do that, they comment. The US and the European Union will put pressure on Turkish banks connected to the Russian Mir payment system. The merger of Ethereum's mainnet with its Bitcoin chain proof-of-stake system marks one of the most important milestones in the history of cryptocurrencies. According to its developers, the upgrade eliminates the need for energy-intensive mining. The energy crisis threatens to drag on for years to come if no one does anything about it. Iodine is responsible for the destruction of Arctic's ozone. It is the potassium iodide that is dumped into the atmosphere to manipulate the climate or the weather. Europe. The price of petrol falls again in Spain to its lowest level since January. The fuel paradox: diesel is in short supply, but oil is in surplus. Brussels wants to ban products made with forced labor. Brussels proposed a 10% reduction in electricity consumption, a tax on oil companies, and postpones the cap on gas. Brussels hopes to recover 140 billion euros from European energy companies. The end of socialism in Sweden. Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson announces her resignation after her electoral defeat. Greek actress Irene Papas dies at the age of 96. She achieved worldwide fame in Thorba the Greek. Hackers disclosed the data of around 115,000 customers of the Portuguese airline TAP. The US and other countries forgive Ukraine's debt payments until 2023. Americas. Nazi breakaway civilization in Antarctica. According to Juan O'Sabin, a process of rupture began in the early of 1800s with industrialists from Germany going to Argentina and beginning the development of other sciences that led to flying vehicles and excursions to Antarctica. The last place Obama was before leaving office was Bariloche in Argentina, where Nazis protected by Perón took refuge after the Second World War. Under 2 miles of thick ice lies an area 1.5 times the size of North America. As in places of the continent, there are hot springs. There are rivers flowing under the ice and large lakes because it is thermally heated by underground geysers. The Nazis sent 42,000 women to Antarctica to support the German army there in 1942, and there is no record of them ever returning. The Fourth Reich didn't accept the failure of the Third Reich, and so Hitler was not admitted to Antarctica and had to take refuge in Argentina. The Allies defeated the German army, but not the Nazis. Inflation in Argentina remains very high and is heading towards 100% per year. The Argentine government will present a budget based on fiscal order. The trial of ex-cop Mario Sandoval begins in Argentina. Argentina will send its ambassador to the UK to attend Elizabeth II's funeral. Uruguayan trade unions staged a general strike against the government's model of inequality. Massive evasions of public transport, clashes in the streets, protests and marches to the Ministry of Education by secondary school students have become daily occurrences in Chile in recent weeks. The Chilean Senate extends the state of emergency in two conflictive areas in the south of the country, the epicenter of the so-called Mapuche conflict between indigenous communities, forestry companies and the state. An NGO calls for assistance to 6,000 migrants stranded on Mexico's southern border. The US wants Mexico to take in migrants it does not want to receive. Military installations in Guerrero, Mexico are vandalized in protest against the Ayotzinapa case. Chess Dota speaks out in Mexico on Russia sanctions. In quotes, "The dumbest people I've ever seen." Tensions rises in Chile with the student protests. More than 400 displaced by armed clashes in western Colombia. Relatives of the victims of the police massacre in Colombia are still demanding justice. A case is open to investigate crimes against ethnic villages in Colombia that left more than 1.3 million victims. Colombia evaluates transforming fracking projects into geothermal energy projects. Colombia and Venezuela are working to normalize military relations. Venezuela recorded inflation of 8.2% in August, according to its central bank. Peruvian mission meets with Bolivian organizations for the use of a port on the south coast. Ecuador's indigenous gardens a shield against the depletion of the Amazon. Ecuador's government says dialogue with indigenous people is a model for other countries. Ecuador brings together militaries from the region to discuss defense and cybersecurity. El Salvador will commemorate its independence with events for and against Bukele. With the sale of Banco de Costa Rica, succeeded in relieving the country's debt. Human rights defenders in Nicaragua support United Nations report and call for action. US helps Panama modernize its pharmaceutical sector. Rio de Janeiro's armed group denominated areas grow by 131% in 16 years. Russian companies are ditching the dollar. The percentage of foreign currency deposits among the largest clients is currently 4%, while at the beginning of the year it was 40%, said the deputy chairman of Russia's largest bank. Putin at meeting with Xi. Western attempts to create a unipolar world have taken a horrible form in quotes. At the same time, the Russian president noted that Russia appreciates China's balanced stance on the Ukrainian crisis, in quotes again. Asia. Dubai is leading the development of the Metaverse. Mujahideen leader Ahmad Massoud appeals for help to fight the Taliban in Afghanistan. Japan increases imports of Russian liquefied natural gas by more than 200% in August. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.